Hello, welcome to Christian Media Review. My name is William Hemsworth, and thank you for joining me for this week's episode. Well, this week's episode of Christian Media Review, we're not reviewing anything particularly new. We're going to review a DVD, a movie, a film, obviously. And this film was actually made in the mid-'80s. So you're like, William, why are we going so far back? Well, a couple of reasons. One, I think it's just a really great movie, and I think it was popular at the time, but I think for today it's kind of slept on. And it has a great mix of history and talks about missions quite a bit. Talks about some historical missionary things that were going on. And the movie is called The Mission. And it's based on some historical events of the 18th century Jesuit mission. So the film portrays the importance that missions had, still has really, in the Catholic Church and the urgency there to spread the gospel. The film also displays something that has been all too common throughout history, and that's the bad treatment of colonies on native people. It's an epic film of people uniting to shield the South American tribe from brutal subjugation by 18th century colonial empires. And the film brings together the unlikeliest of heroes. One of the main characters is Rodrigo Mendoza, who was in the slave trade. He would go to great lengths to capture the Guarani peoples and sell them for profit. He led a bad life and ended up killing his brother when a lady chose his brother over himself. Now, when in prison, he could not eat because he was so overcome with grief over what he had done. While in prison, he was visited by Father Gabriel, who was a Jesuit missionary, who assures him that he could be forgiven. And so the two embark on a journey to teach the Guarani people about Christ. But it's a mission that Father Gabriel was obviously already on. Rodrigo is overwhelmed by the reception that the people whom he had worked to enslave give him, because they forgave him, they took him in. The storyline is straightforward and not only depicts those who seek to marginalize others, but those who strive to love others and respect their culture while trying to evangelize. Now, there are many issues that can be dealt with in this review, but I want to discuss two things within this film. The two issues are the importance of the church in missions, and that the Great Commission is valid for all Christians. Now, from the beginning of the film, the importance of the church in missions can be seen. And so Catholic missionaries went to many nations where the scriptures weren't translated in their own language. Now, to overcome the lack of the written word, the church used many things such as iconography, art, carvings, and statues. One concrete way that some Roman basilicas facilitated mission and gospel proclamation was through the art paintings, mosaics, and stone carvings that adorn their walls, ceilings, floors, and doors in many cases. This practice can be seen clearly in about 25 minutes into the film. Father Gabriel is sitting with the people and is handing them books and pictures. One particular picture that struck up conversation was that of the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus. Father Gabriel also had a picture book for the children that showed the gospel message. Throughout the ages, this has been a very effective way for evangelization if there's a language barrier and for those who are not able to read. This method also gained approval in the early church when Bishop Gregory of Rome, he's quoted as saying, quote, "What writing presents to readers, a picture presents to the unlearned who view it, since in the image even the ignorant see what they are to follow. In the picture, the illiterate read." Now, the crucifix is synonymous with Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, and the film depicts the missionaries using it to teach them about the Passion. They gain the trust of the people, and the people move from their native land to a mission that they helped build. The missionaries bonded with the people in such a way that they became family. And so later on in the film, due to political pressure, the church hierarchy closed the mission, and the missionaries stayed to fight for the rights of those that they had evangelized. This particular scene was a reminder of Bartholomew de las Casas, who risked his own life to protect the rights of the native Indians he evangelized. The missionaries in the film said over and over again that they could not leave the people. The people would think that God had abandoned them, but the priests stayed with them even when they were ordered to leave. One of them even asked to be defrocked so he could fight for the rights of the people. It was a moving sentiment and showed the politics behind colonization at the time. The missionaries risked everything to evangelize, and the people risked everything because they trusted. Perhaps the greatest scene of the film is when Father Gabriel leads a Eucharistic procession while the people are singing hymns in their native tongue. They hear the fighting, the gunshots, and the screams, because it was Spain and Portugal going at it at the time. But they continue the procession. Father Gabriel is killed leading a peaceful march, and many of the people die with him. The film also shows, though it's not explicitly stated, the missions landscape in the 17th and 18th centuries. The missionaries in the film were from Portugal and Spain, and these countries were stable and were superpowers of the day. The film portrays, it's a portrayal of the urgency of what the Great Commission looks like. As I said before, the Jesuit priests, the missionaries, knew that one of their own had just been killed by the tribe. Yet they moved with love. They were moved with love for this group of unreached people. They climbed over dangerous terrain, dangerous cliffs, through waterfalls, rivers, rainforests, and their lives were in danger. However, they knew they had to spread the gospel, and they went to great lengths to make it happen. And so the film, The Mission, shows how dangerous foreign mission had the potential to be, and how marginalized these groups were because of colonization. The film shows the great love that the evangelists had for the people. They taught them the gospel, set up missions, taught scripture, and treated the natives like people, because they are. They're made in God's image too. In an era when the slave trade was rampant, the mission shows the power of the gospel. It shows the power to overcome cultural, religious, and social norms. The missionaries not only built trust, but became engaged in native society to the point where they were seen as family. They had a sense of urgency, which brought the gospel to lands that had been previously unreached. Probably most important of all, the missionaries stuck with the natives when they were betrayed by a nation. Many missionaries were heroic in this regard, as Bradley Gunlaw writes, quote, "So while some missionaries took a heroic stand for Indian rights, they could not prevail against the self-interest of local whites and the theoretical scruples or political pragmatics of others, inside and outside the church." This is exactly what the missionaries did in this film. On a side note, if you're a fan of Robert Dinero, young Robert Dinero is in this film, and he plays the slave trader turned priest who helps evangelize those that he once enslaved. The movie is it's very sad at times, but it's a very inspirational movie in my opinion. I recommend that you check it out. Again, that movie is The Mission. And it was made in 1985, so it's been around a while. Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Christian Media Review. My name is William Hemsworth. Please feel free to visit my website at williamhemsworth.com for other articles and resources to help you grow in your faith. God bless you all, and we'll catch you next week on Christian Media Review.